Am I on camera?
No, you good. Stay right there. Hello, everybody. Everybody on my Facebook channel and on YouTube on Carl's Conversations. What a treat this is today. I'm in Sumter, South Carolina with my dad. You might be able to see a little resemblance here. This is my dad, Lafayette Armstrong. He is a Air Force retired NCO. He's retired from the Postal Service. He's a Vietnam veteran. He's an American hero. And he's always been my hero. Matter of fact, he was my first hero. And what an honor and pleasure it is to be able to sit down with him and introduce him to you all. Some of y'all who know me have heard me talk about him because I always talk about him. And I'm sure there's a few of you out there who have met the man, the myth, and the legend. So,
Mostly myth.
yeah. By the time we finish this interview, if any of you think that I'm an activist or that I'm a radical, you may see where I get it from. So I just want to take a few minutes and talk to my dad about some of our current events. There's a lot of things going on. And of course, he was around when the civil rights movement was going very strong in the 60s. His youth was was built around that, was very drastically affected by all those things that happened. And so I just want to take a few minutes to talk to him. So I introduced him to, welcome, Daddy. This is Lafayette Armstrong, my father.
Good to be here, son.
Wonderful. Thank you. So the first thing I want to talk to you about, Dad, is police reform. As you know, with the movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, and I like to tell my audience, I'm not part of the Black Lives Matter organization. I really don't know a whole lot about the organization. I am part of the movement on the local scene up in Northern Virginia. And when we talk about police reform, there's a whole lot of things going on, and there's a big thing about defunding the police. And I hate that word because that word doesn't sound like what it is that we really want. We really want to reimagine policing in the United States so that things are fair the way that Blacks are dealt with in our country are fair. And I've recently done an interview with three millennials, three young men, about what does police reform look like to you? And I wanted to ask my dad, what does police reform look like to you? What do you think needs to happen in this country with police reform that'll make it fair?
It's a very complicated question. And it's complicated to this extent. There's too many laws in the United States to be reinforced. So the law enforcement apparatus has got a menu to do carte blanche. They can do what they want to do. They can enforce the minute law and all this sort of thing. When I retired from the Air Force, I went and worked with the Department of Corrections in South Carolina. And it brought me right back to the streets. And I was amazed to see these kids who they say can't read and write filing briefs in federal courts like lawyers. Getting back to the subject at hand on the police reform being complicated. Reform to what extent? How? Why? Is the community going to be involved? We get this thing about the community. The community has to be active in the police reform. I don't care what community it is, but all the communities in the city, or where you live, or where I live, they have to be involved. And that means it's incumbent of all the bodies in your region to be part of that action and be sincerely part of it, not one-sided. We have to be acting involved. One thing about it, you're talking about receipt, and it goes beyond, like I said, it's complicated till it goes into the political extent, to this extent. If we don't vote for the dog catchers, you can't have reforms because the reform in the police departments work for the local mayor, the city managers, and all that sort of thing. We elect the mayors. We elect the city council. By the time you get to the president, if you didn't have involvement in those local elections, it's a moot point to vote for the president because the electoral college is going to determine that. And electoral college is for a lot of dog catchers. And what I mean by dog catchers is the local politicians to determine the electoral college. So as a people, we have lost our moral compass on the fact about not voting for the local politician, not voting for the dog catcher. Now, I think we've been misguided on not voting for the dog catcher because people want to live on this myth that the only thing to come out and vote during the election of the president. No, that's not the only time. That's one of the times, but that's not the time.
Right.
It begins with the school board. You got more people to see these kids play football than they do in the PTA meeting. But you heard this before. I'm not telling you anybody anything new. If you don't go to city council meeting, you don't go to the school board meeting. The only time you want to go to school board too when one of our kids get hurt or shot and all that sort of thing like that. And if our kids are playing football and their mamas and daddies say they can't play on the, if a coach tells them they can't play on the team because they're not making a 2.5 average, you got more mothers and fathers come out there want to know where my child can't play, why my child can't play ball and all this sort of thing. I'm not a Bill Cosby fan for all the stuff that he did and all this thing, but one thing he said that I do agree with. He said, you know, he was quoted as saying, well, Bill Cosby, you are airing out dirty laundry. You're talking about black folks. But what he said was something moving. He said, our dirty laundry can't read and write.
That's right.
So this dirty laundry, when I'm saying about my point is something when the parent come out there and raise Cain about their kids can't play football or basketball because they don't have 2.4 that average. What are we talking about here? I ask kids simply every time I have an audience to talk to kids. I ask them this. I said, do you love your mom and your daddy? They say, yeah. I say, do you make A's and B's in school? And they say, no, they hunt their shoulders. So I said, when your mom and daddy go to the hospital, do you want that doctor who made D's and F's like you did or hang around with you to work on your mama, or do you want the nerd that you can't stand work on? And everybody say they want the nerd, but don't nobody want to be a nerd. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying.
The nerd's gonna ride the Benz. The nerd is the one we're gonna be paying $600 an hour for to represent us before the court of law. The nerd's gonna do that. I'm not saying that every kid can be a nerd or doing, but they can do better than what they are doing.
Yes.
We are people of great skill, great mindsets. Let me tell you, back to police reform. All this stuff is encompassed, is in the cake towards police reform. We can't have police reform until we have community reform.
Oh.
You know, that's the way I see it. This is my 2 cents. I'm nobody talking about everybody. But I don't look at myself as nobody. But in certain ills of society, that's how I want to say it. By my social economic strata, you know, my education, and where I live in, what part of town I live in. So, and whether you're a pillar or not in the community. Now, this thing about being a pillar and stuff in the community is based on what? And that's how the policemen judge us on where we are in the community and that sort of thing. In my day, if a policeman stopped you in my community in South Norfolk, Virginia, the whole community didn't know. Why did the policeman stop that boy? You didn't have to do nothing. But it was a reason why the policeman stopped it. And you were questioned and you were challenged by that. And you had to give some form of justification of who you are and what you did. But here, we have no honor in our community anymore. When I'm saying honor is honor the respect that we have for our elders, the respect that we have for one another. I think Carl said something to me momentarily again about marching. He said, you know, why should I go and march? And then I come back home, I got to deal with black on black crime. You know what I'm saying? I'm watching on one of these other people doing something to me. Then I got to come home and worry about my own people to do something with me.
Right.
When I'm gonna march for that? When I'm gonna march on black crime? And the policeman had nothing to do with black on black crime. It's up to us. We got to do that. So it is a very complicated and complex problem. But one step at a time. Got to start here at home, in my house, your house, and all that sort of thing. This gentleman sitting right next to me, a lot of times him and his brother and his siblings used to look at me and roll their eyes and stuff like that and say, we want you to be our friend. Hell, I never wanted to be their friend. To this day, I don't want to be their friend. Because their friends at some point would leave them something. As a father, I would never leave them. Right or wrong, they're my babies. Right or wrong, I love them dearly. But this mentality of dishonor, I said dishonor. Our parents, I feared my mother, grandparents and stuff more than I feared the police. And that fear that it put into us, because if I'm old school, if what my mama and some of your grandparents stuff did to kids, now they'd be in the penitentiary based on the standards the same. But that fear kept us safe. That fear kept us in a straight line mentally. You know what I'm saying? And that fear protected us against that in that systematic racism. I came from all my school. I never went to integrated school. I never went to integration until I went in the Air Force, because I've always been around black people in my community, and I seen the racism firsthand. So I came from the first grade all the sort of from the first grade all the way through until sixth grade. We had in our school system in South Norfolk, Chesapeake, we had second-handed books for the white kids didn't want. We had to learn from them. But guess what? We learned. Because a verb is a verb, whether it's in a new book or old book.
That's right.
2 plus 2 was 2 plus 2, whether it was in an old book or a new book. But you see, the white man thought he was hurting us. But we were still learning the same thing them kids were learning. And I might have some people out there who disagree with me and all this sort of thing. But that's it. That's why I went to Southeast Asia. So we had the right to do that. And then one of the reasons why I went. But I'm a firm believer. Community schooling, especially in our communities, and what people that look like me did me a lot of good, because we had teachers that cared. We had teachers that reached out and know the political and the socioeconomics that we could deal with. They understood because they came from that.
Mm-hmm.
And they rose above that to try to make a better life for us. You see what I'm saying? In the sixth grade, they told me about dead reckoning navigation.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I know what Ethiopia was when I was in fourth and fifth grades, because the teacher was taught us that. But here, when you went to the integrated schools, there was nobody there to care about your education. Nobody gave us rhythm. You see what I'm saying? Somebody got our behinds and threw our behinds up. You see what I'm saying? Man, now they want to give you a drug and say you're dismissed because they can't handle our behavior. They don't understand our children. And that's not totally their fault, because you got mothers having babies. They're babies themselves. Mm-hmm. And we put charity out. We spend $300 on a pair of sneakers, then $300 on a pair of books. You see what I'm saying? So in our community and stuff, I know in our community, we need to be more focused on what's the next step. And it's something that my grandfather told me, it makes sense. You always want to make the next generation better. I don't care how, make the next generation better. And the next generation is yours, your grandkids and all that sort of thing. So you do whatever you can, little how small, to do that. You know, now they say that our kids can't learn, but everybody learns. In the black schools, everybody learns. We learn differently. Even white PhDs, everybody learned differently, but they learn. You see, even guys who couldn't diagram a sentence, but they could put a nail in something. And you look at the money the carpenters make now. Look at the money the plumbers make now. You see what I'm saying? Every doctor need a plumber. Every doctor need a carpenter. So it ain't so much your title, but your skill set. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You can have a title and no skills.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? But have skills with no title. So which one would you prefer? A title with no skill or a skill with no title? Where? And that's the challenge that we get, because we get caught up on name, material stuff, look at my Jordan and stuff like this. One thing I'm glad to see in the last couple of days, but seeing a lot of five-star athletes are going to historical black colleges. And that is something that we need, because these rich white schools, we all think we're doing is making them richer. They're endowments of something. And all they're doing, to me, the NCAA is nothing but a big plantation. Making money off of black kids and putting it back in their form. Because after a student athlete, they're full of it. Because they don't give our kids, when they get hurt and stuff, the benefit of the doubt to finish, to push them for their education. That's how it. And you might want to say, what this got to do with police reform? Like I said in the beginning of this conversation, it's complicated. It ain't just a police reform that we got issues with. It's a whole lot of issues.
Can I ask you a question real quick? Because I want to make sure the audience understands. If I hear you correctly, you're not saying that we don't have a police brutality problem. It sounds to me like what you're saying is, from where you're sitting, before we even reach out and deal with that, from where you're sitting, we got to do some in-reach and start building with what's going on in our own house. And I'll tell my audience, because my audience really don't hear this part from me so much, I actually agree with my father. I've been saying this behind closed doors for years. It's just that the spotlight is at another place right now. But we just had a very violent weekend in inner cities all throughout the United States. And I'm heartbroken about it. I really am, because we have to own that issue. But in owning the issue and taking responsibility to go and do something about it does not absolve the systemic racism problem and the systemic police brutality problem, which is causing us to talk about police reform. What my father is saying is police reform is bigger than just the police. We got to reform a whole lot of stuff. And I'm starting to hear that. The more and more I talk about it with people, we hear this. And I'm gonna say something. I'm so sick of others outside of us telling us what we think. That's part of the reason why I have these conversations. And I don't try to shape the conversation to be what I think it ought to be. I want those of us who are willing to come on and talk with me on my platform to speak to you, to tell you what we're thinking, one by one, piece by piece, group by group, because we are an eclectic group. We don't have one mind about this thing. So I'm on track there?
Yeah. And let me say further that the police brutality thing is, yes, it's done by racism. Don't let me try to sleep that under cover. They are racist cops. And I believe, this is my belief, that 95% of the white cops are racist. The other 5% are, maybe 3% of the 5% are good people. The other 2% are on the line. Now, human nature can say anybody push a button, they can send them going. But when you come up with a systematic ideology of racism, and you bring that to your job, and coupled with the fact that this United States give you certain powers over people to protect and serve, you know what I'm saying? Serving ain't any. You know, the only thing they're serving is ass whooping. The only thing they're doing is protecting each other's behind.
Mhm.
So who are they protecting and serving? But you know, and I want to say something too. Curtis Mayfield say, your white teacher is telling you to love your black preacher. And for all of y'all who don't understand that, think about what I'm saying. Your white teacher is telling you to love your black preacher. Come on. The church is big business now. When the church wasn't big business and it was finding a way for us to have equal opportunity, equal rights for the business aspect from these people, my mama and grandmama, didn't have very much. But they had the dignity and respect of their convictions. And that's not, didn't have what we had, but the dignity and respect of their conviction and their sense of honor, their sense of worth. You see?
I want to ask you something. I've heard you say many times, and I believe it was something that Muhammad Ali originally quoted when they were trying to draft him for military service. He said, "No Viet Cong ever called him a nigger." Now, you were face to face with the Viet Cong, and I've heard you say that same thing. Can you tell our audience, what do you mean when you say that?
I wasn't directly face to face with most of the Air Force guys, but I was confronted with the situation of being over there and being in the thick of things when it happened. But what I'm saying is this. In Viet Cong, in Vietnam, when the enemy used to play Bring the Boys Home, war with the Temptations, the United States government outlawed that. Hannah Hannah played that over there over the radio, honestly, that sort of thing like that. The white guys were telling the women, like they did in every war we had, that the black people grow tails. And yet we were under the same flag. See what I'm saying? So when you talk about flags and getting caught up with this and this, I used to tell Carl all the time, how is it that society, the American culture, look at two Marines, one black and one white, both of them get the Medal of Honor. But when the white boy get the Medal of Honor, he's serving his country. But when the black kid get the Medal of Honor, it's affirmative action. Something wrong with that picture. Something wrong with that picture. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I've heard blacks say, Colin Powell, he was a kiss ass, a suck ass, or, he wasn't for us and all that sort of thing. Let me tell you all something. Read his book. Bull. Colin Powell went to a small school in Brooklyn, ROTC graduate, and rose and beat them down white West Pointers. West Pointers, the premier schools. And look what he can. You can't kiss that much bud. You can't beat that system like that. You can't beat nothing and raise to the power that he did. That's because of his skill set. You cannot do that. You cannot kiss that much behind. You got to have some skill for somebody to put you in that position. You know what I'm saying? I firmly disagree with Clarence Thomas. And I'm going to tell you why. That's because he's black. He's a brilliant man. I think I read some of his papers. But I disagree with his mindset that everything is equal. I firmly disagree with that. Because if everything was equal, he would not think, and don't quote me really, but I think he went to Holy Cross. And I read somewhere where he wanted to go to Notre Dame, but he went to Holy Cross because they didn't think he was qualified to go to Notre Dame. Out of Georgia, kept from the Catholic school. You see what I'm saying? So don't get me, I think when Justice, what's the black justice?
Thurgood Marshall.
Yes. Justice Thurgood Marshall said in regard to Clarence Thomas, in case some of you didn't know. And he was asked when he was leaving the bench, he said, what do you think of Clarence Thomas? And he said this. He said, snakes come in all colors. Well, one thing they still have, they still a snake. And he left it at that.
Wow.
And this, leave you this. Condoleezza Rice was President Bush's
National Security Advisor.
yeah, Security Advisor and Secretary of
And
State.
Secretary of State, second term. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Dick Gregory said that these white folks call her Condi. They always address as Condi. Well, you got a drink they call Dr. Pepper. Dr. Rice probably got more PhDs than anybody else who call Condi. Now, I disagree with her political, but she's my sister.
Right, right.
I love her dearly. You see what I'm saying? But she deserved to be called Dr. Rice.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Then why you can call a drink Dr. Pepper and can't call her Dr. Rice? You see what I'm saying? And speaking on President Bush, me and him was at the same age. I got drafted because I missed a semester out in Norfolk State. And we went back in to get a semester. But his daddy called up the National Guard and let him send him going on. He went in the National Guard. My mama couldn't call nobody for me to go in the National Guard. Oh, there you go.
That's right.
So, you know, this thing about police reform. How can you reform a system where you're going into the system when it's already crooked? Because most of the time when you get the police, they're going in to become police officers, they come in there with an edge over us anyway. It's called white privilege. So if you're a policeman, 75 to force or 85% of the force is white. They grew up being that they were superior and white privilege. So how do you get that out of somebody? Now, what did help when the poor whites started going to school with the blacks? That helped. But when the well-to-do whites still had the segregation issue and stuff like that, you still became in a subservient mindset. That didn't do anybody any good. One thing about the military, they got I always said this, there are no atheists in foxholes. Everybody find Muhammad, find rabbis, they find Jesus, they find Buddha, yeah.
Krishna,
yeah, they find everybody in the foxhole. You see what I'm saying? Everybody prayed in. You know what I'm saying? And my son, you know, at the top of this conversation was talking about me being a radical. I'm honored by that because look at the radicals in the world. Let's start off with the main radicals as Christians know about, Jesus Christ.
That's right.
He was a radical.
That's right.
Gandhi was a radical. Nelson Mandela was a radical. You see what I'm saying? And Douglas, main radical. You see what I'm saying? So I'm in good company that I've become a radical. You know, that sort of thing. And I'm proud to be a radical. You know, and one thing Muhammad Ali said, that, and I'm gonna close with this. And he said in his book, he said, respect your woman, love and protect your children, and stand for what you believe. Let me leave you with that for now.
One thing. We got to do this. Confederate flags and Confederate monuments. What do you think about what's going on now? You know, the movement, the people in the movement are snatching them down, and not just snatching them down, because I don't want to leave it there. What they're doing is there's a re-education going on, because the history lesson that we got about those characters was whitewashed. And now the harsh reality of who they really were and how they behaved is coming out. When you see that Confederate flag or a Confederate monument, whether it be a statue or whatever, of one of those Confederate officers, what do you think?
The hypocrisy of this country did not hang all those Confederate officers because Lincoln thought that he was trying to get the country back together. Well, I could take some issues with that, but I understand it. But some issues I'm not very concerned about. To put it in a nutshell, if you wear a Confederate flag based on your premise, based on white folks' law, based on white folks' ideology, based on what you said in the Constitution of the United States, the independence, and our governing laws thereafter. They're traitors. And what did we do with traitors? And why did it get that way anyway? Why were monuments put up with traitors? I think about when my Uncle Monk, that's his nickname. His name is Plumber Armstrong. Most brilliant man ever.
Uncle Monk.
He said, after World War II, when the German prisoners came through the South, they were treated better than the people who served, black people who served this country. How can you let the enemy soldiers come be served than the people they had to fought against? How? How did this country justify so much nonsense? I mean, why? How is it in the South, the Bible Belt of this nation, is the most racist of this nation? These people in the South hang black people at night, on Saturday night, and on Sunday morning go ask Jesus for forgiveness. You know what I'm saying? You know, and tell you that your God, your Jesus, is white, is black, and is insignificant. Or to tell you to keep praying. You know, how? How can you say that the evangelicals, or what they call them? Evangelicals, what they call them? How can you say you love Jesus and you're conservative and this sort of thing like that? Because what happens in America and what these white people do all over the world is play word games and this sort of thing. First thing they do is send the missionaries and countries and stuff like that and take over the land and do everything else. Because they put a Bible in your hand and say, you need to believe in our Jesus and your Jesus. We even have Christians that say that if you don't believe in Jesus Christ, you have no faith. You see what I'm saying? What did Gandhi say about when he was asked about Jesus Christ? I'm quoted, but he said something to this effect. He said, I don't have a problem with Jesus Christ. This is what Gandhi said. He said he didn't have a problem with Jesus Christ. He had a problem with their followers. He had a problem with his followers. Do you get it? He didn't have a problem. Thought Jesus was a good man, but his followers, a little less than what they desired. You know, this sort of thing. When I look at all these commentators and all this sort of thing, I don't have the PhDs and all this sort of thing, but you ask me, I'm going to tell you what I lived through. I'm going to tell you what I experienced. And I'm going to tell you where I want my grandkids and all this stuff sitting up going, what I want them to do with my children. I can't leave them material wealth, a great material, but I can leave them what I can. See what I'm saying? I ain't have a whole lot of money to give and do all the things, but I had a whole lot of love, and I did everything the best I knew how. You know, it wasn't perfect. I ain't perfect, but I had the love and the understanding, the right, and the love and understanding of my children and grandchildren. You know, and what's so ironic about my children? The older they get, the better I look. Because I think now they experience life and stuff like that because they're beginning to get it. You know what I'm saying? They're beginning to get it. And I'm very proud of that because sometimes in life, people don't get it.
Right.
They miss the boat or they miss their call. But I am very proud of the fact of my children when they were peeing in their Pampers and I had to give them a bath or they were peeing on me or doing the cutting their teeth and stuff like that. So I'm not concerned about, I've never been any problem with them because they got this PhD or they got something behind their names other than what it was. Because the day I saw their little eyes, nothing could be greater than what that was. Good, bad, and different. And let me say something else about kids. Nobody raised their kids to go to the penitentiary. Nobody want their children to do anything. I just don't believe that people do that. There are some people that are misguided by some things in their ideology and raising their kids. But for the first one, they want their kids to do well. And some people just don't know how to make their kids do because they hadn't been taught well. I remember going to one of my class reunions. God, no, Mr. Brown, who was our principal. And I think he said something to this effect, as I recall. He said, you know, them other folks were taught how to make money. We taught y'all how to earn money because we was not taught how to make money.
Wow.
That's powerful. And had they known, our teachers, knowing how to make money, they would have taught it to us. But they taught us a skill set and a mindset of belief that make me. I am so proud that I was a call repair. I am so proud that I was an Norfolk State Spartan, and I was so proud that I was raised in South Norfolk. I'm just so proud because like my Uncle Monk told me again, here I go again. Everything that crosses Cascade Boulevard and Liberty Street, you're gonna see in the world. The names and the faces will change, but it's the same game. Same game.
Different place, same game.
Different faces and all that sort of same game.
Same game.
And I don't care what kind of language is it, or what kind of same game. You know. You done with me, man?
Well, audience, thank you for listening. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I hope it's not the last time he'll let me interview him. He ain't the easiest person to catch up with the interview, you know.
I got my time depending on, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So thank y'all for listening. Once again, this is my father, the one and only Lafayette Armstrong, aka Lil Fate. If you're from South Norfolk, you know the family. So thank y'all for listening. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Until next time, God bless you and may heaven smile upon you. Bye-bye.